Happy New Year and happy Sunday for those of you tuning in here today. My name is Brian Meter. You all know me already follow me for the last couple of years. I have special guests here with me today. My special guest is Dr. Nana. Dr. Nana is from the US, and we're going to talk about all things blood sugar today because Dr. Nana is an actual expert in this field, and it's something that's been quite of interest from me as well because it's so important for our overall health, and I think so many people struggle with it. So I'm really glad to have you on today, Nana. Before I'll hand over to you and before we'll start our little conversation, I just want to introduce my guests or my friends and followers to who you are and how you became to what you are now. So Dr. Nana is a pharmacist, so she has actually a medical background, but also a diabetes functional medicine practitioner and speaker. She is the founder of Ditch Diabetes Academy and has over 10 years of experience in the medical field. Her mission is to empower people with metabolic health issues to take back control of their health by implementing long-term food first, don't we all love that, right? Lifestyle changes through individualized coaching and education. Her expertise and passion for people have aided many people with type 2 diabetes in the United States and other countries in reaching their full potential through lifestyle changes to live a healthy life. Nana, you're very welcome, and I'm really glad to have you on today.
Hey, Brian, thank you so much for having me on your platform. I really do appreciate it. Happy New Year to everyone watching.
So Nana, tell me a little bit, obviously, I always love to talk to people who have a medical background. So they were taught maybe the traditional way of how health or how we achieve health, right? How we manage and navigate illness and disease. And then somewhere along the way, people realize maybe there's more to this. Maybe I can help my clients, my patients, the people I meet on a daily basis differently. So how did that come along for you?
Oh boy. So, as you mentioned in the bio, I have been a pharmacist for about 10 years now, but been in the medical field for about 16 years. Okay. So, and I've worked in different settings. And over the years, as I was practicing, I realized a few things. So one of the things that I realized that most people don't understand their health. They don't understand their bodies, and they don't also understand the choices that they have when it comes to, their health. So most people don't understand what they don't know. Okay. I think that when a lot of people think of who a pharmacist is, they usually think of that person behind the drugstore counting the meds and, putting it in the bottle and be like, hey, here you go. But, pharmacists do more than that, and they work in so many different settings as well. They can help you. They can be your advocate, prepare you for your doctor's visit, help communicate to your healthcare team. They can help with consulting, help you with side effects, drug interactions, food interactions, coaching, help you with lifestyle changes, and also educating you on your health and the medications that you are taken. So, that was just by the way, because a lot of people think of pharmacists that person counting the pills, right? So, for the purpose of our conversation, I'll just share how I transitioned into what I'm doing now. So, at some point in my career, I was working in a retail setting. And when I was working there, I realized obviously people were coming in and out of the pharmacy every month to pick up their medications, take it, all that good stuff. But I realized that people were not getting the results that they were desiring. I mean, they were coming in every time, right? So people were complaining of the side effects of the medications. Most were also not taking the medications because of the side effects, right? A lot of people were also on a lot of medications, right? And they were not, I'll say they were not really happy about what was going on. So this was very heartbreaking to me per se. And I realized that there is more that as professionals we weren't tapping into. There were more avenues that we weren't tapping into. So what changed this whole thing for me was when I worked closely with someone who had type 2 diabetes, and he was able to actually turn things around and he is not no longer on no medications. He does not have no type 2 diabetes, and he's still fine after like 5 years still, right? So that was when I realized that this illness per se is not genetic illness. It's more so like a lifestyle illness, a lifestyle disease. And usually the things that we all do is what contribute to some of the diseases and symptoms that we are dealing with now. So that got me, exploring into certain things. And I use those same principles that I use working with that individual for my own health. Because, working long hours, I was not eating properly, Brian. Like years ago, I was not. You will not catch me eating no healthy food. Okay. So I used those same principles for my own health, and I realized my mood was getting better. My period pains were getting better every month, right? So I'm like, okay, there's something there, something is working. So that's when I further explored into like the functional medicine, the lifestyle approaches that you and I are involved in. And that's what got me to doing what I'm doing now. So basically I teach people how to achieve healthy blood sugar levels without the restriction, because we don't want to restrict us. So we love some of the cookies here and there, okay, so they can get their body, energy and focus back. So that's how I transitioned into
I
what.
love that, and it's interesting because you mentioned one thing in regards to you weren't eating like as healthy yourself, but then you made a few little changes yourself, and you realized, oh, hold on now, something is actually changing here in inside
Exactly.
of me too. And
Hmm.
it's funny because that's kind of how I became a nutritional therapist, how I entered this career, this profession 13 years ago now,
Mm,
already, when I just changed my diet and realized, oh my God, I have more energy. The pains are gone, the
exactly.
inflammation is gone, and that got me onto that road. So I was my first result.
Patient, your
I
client.
was my first patient, right?
Yeah.
And then I helped others, started helping other people. So it's
Wow.
fascinating. And also when I work with clients too, even though I'm not a type 2 diabetes specialist,
Hmm.
I always look at blood sugars. Like blood sugar is so, so important. And I think if you
So
just do that one
important.
thing,
Hmm.
so many other things all of a sudden improve because it's controlling so much. So
Yeah. Yeah.
without obviously going into all the biochemistry and all the things that go on in our body, but what do you feel is like one of like maybe the misconceptions or what people don't understand about blood sugar? Maybe like something you'd like to share about blood sugar or why it's so important to avoid the spikes and the lows and the extremes.
Hmm. Yeah, sure. That's actually a good question. When people hear blood sugar, they automatically associate it with diabetes, right? But gone were the days where when we think of blood sugar, we just focus on people that are living with diabetes. Now, blood sugar affects everybody. It actually controls how we feel at every moment of our lives. It involves in even our mental health. So I think before we even get into all the what does it do, all that stuff, let's talk about what blood sugar is, because maybe someone might not know what exactly that is. So I will explain. I'll try as much as possible to explain the way that it's understandable. So blood sugar is the preferred source of energy for our body. Okay, so as humans, we all have cells, little cells, and these cells, they need something to function, and they need glucose, which is the sugar, to function, right? So every cell in our body needs glucose to function. So that's pretty much what, blood sugar, does and all that stuff. So how do we get sugar in our body? We get it through the food that we eat, through any kind of food that we eat, we get it. So once we eat, it gets digested and it gets in the bloodstream, right? So for everyone, regardless whether you have like type diabetes or not, your sugar levels will spike, right? But the body does not love a lot of sugar in the blood, even though we need it for energy, right? So that sugar has to go somewhere. So what happens is there's a hormone called insulin, and basically insulin transport that sugar in the blood to the cells so you can have energy, so it can go, the brain cells can use to think, our heart can use it to pump, Our muscles can use it to move, right? So we need it. We need it to function. It's so important. Blood sugar is important for so many functions in our body. So it's not only associated with diabetes, okay? So that's just how the normal, like how blood sugar works. So in regards to how it affect, our body, once that thing happened and our blood sugar goes into the cells for energy, right? That's just a normal process, but it doesn't always happen that way because the cells are not dysfunction. They are not working properly. So usually what will happen, insulin will attach itself to the cells open up and the sugar gets in, and then we have energy to do whatever that we have to do. But sometimes the cells is dysfunction. Something else is going on. So because of that, now you have a lot of insulin in the blood and you have a lot of higher sugar also in the blood. And that by itself causes a lot of symptoms that we are all experiencing, the cravings that we are having, the tiredness, the weight gain issues. There are so many people that are trying to lose weight and can't lose weight. Guess what? Let me tell you a secret. You got to look at balancing your blood sugar, okay? So, for tiredness, so if you're a person who is, you get tired all the time. You can't play with your kids for too long. You carry the groceries and you're like, oh my God, I am so tired. We got to look at your blood sugar because there's lack of energy output, right? For weight gain, because there's high insulin there, that high insulin, it can be high over there. So it has to be stored into fat tissues. So now you are doing all these stuff and you can't seem to lose weight. We got to look at your blood sugar. So it has so many symptoms, cravings, okay, mental health. And even it also causes hormonal imbalance and things of that nature because we have high insulin, which is a very powerful hormone in our body. And insulin is connected to other hormones in the body. So once that one is imbalanced, it affects everything, your estrogen, your testosterone, a whole lot of hormones, which now, so that's the reason why you now see a lot of people with hormonal imbalance. You see a lot of people with PCOS, infertility issues, unfortunately. And all these stuff are connected to blood sugar. And I think the one that I actually love most is the cravings, because when you have the blood sugar, because we all have that, right? It's not something that I'm exempt to myself. I love my cookies and my chocolate, and I don't want to get rid of it because I love it, right? But what happens is like it causes a glucose spike. So that bottom, so it goes up and it goes down. So that bottom thing, that activate the craving center for us. So usually when you eat, it causes like a high feeling for you, and that is caused by dopamine is responsible for that high feeling, that happy feeling that you'll be having. So over time, when it gets tired, the receptors get tired, the brain is like, okay, what's going on? I need to feed Brian. You got to eat more sugar so I can be happy, right? So now you get into this addiction cycle, and it's based on usually also the foods that we are eating and things of that nature. So that's why blood sugar is associated with cravings a lot. And so when you are having all these symptoms, it's your body's way of telling you something is wrong. It's not normal. So this is the time that you have to be like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? So your body is really telling you, knock, knock. I wanna collaborate with you. I wanna partner with you so we can fix this thing that is going on. This is not the time to just, be there and be like, okay, it's okay. I'm just craving this. I'm just tired. I can't lose weight, so it's okay. No, something is going on that we have to fix, right? So these are, I would say, the short-term issues that blood sugar causes, and obviously we can talk about the long-term effect as well later. But yeah, so that is really important. It's not just for people that have diabetes. So balancing blood sugar, I'm not saying that is the cure for everything, but I have actually not seen one disease that does not get better from not balancing your blood sugar. So it's really important. Yeah.
I would absolutely second that. When you just balance that, it has an impact on so many things. And you mentioned it. I think people a lot of times just think of the weight.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they associate blood sugar with most of the times. But like you
Mm-hmm.
said, what about my hormones? What about my irregular menstrual cycle? What about
The
um,
parents.
the recovery after exercise? What about like the brain fog? What about
Mm-hmm.
the anxiety? I think that's one of the
Exactly.
like probably
Yeah.
like one of the most
Mm-hmm.
underestimated things connected to blood sugar is anxiety.
Yeah.
It's like it's like blood sugar imbalance causing anxiety, and then we have the caffeine on top of that, so that's a whole new level, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and even when it comes to brain fog, sometimes you wonder why you're not productive at work, right? Because you having high blood sugar spikes because it's causing the neurons not to communicate properly. So now you're like not remembering things faster or quickly, but you have blood sugar issues. It causes so many things. Like it's just unbelievable. And we really underestimate it because we always associate it with diabetes. When you talk about blood sugar, people are like, oh, I don't have diabetes, but no, we are all affected by this. And obviously when you don't control it, it can lead to long-term issues like type 2 diabetes, because now you're having insulin resistance. It can lead to even blood pressure, because once you have uncontrolled blood sugar, is retaining fluids and salt, which increases your blood sugar. That uncontrolled blood sugar is messing with your small vessels. So now the cell, they are constricting, which is increasing the pressure, high blood pressure, cholesterol issues, right? It's like a cascade. And it keeps going on and on and on. When the plague can fall into your heart, you can get a heart attack. When it gets crazy, you can get a stroke. So it's all interconnected. So this thing is really important, and it's surprising to me why a lot of people don't address this, but only talk about the other things that are going on. And it's just the really basis. And I'm not saying that's the cure for everything, but once you balance your blood sugar, you see that some of the symptoms that you are dealing with are actually going away. So it's like a magic pill.
it is the magic pill, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I just thought of it there also because I think when you work with a patient, that might be the same for you. It's
Mm-hmm.
once you help someone balance their blood sugar,
Mm-hmm.
and like you said, it doesn't mean you can never have a cookie ever again, right? We like those therapists, right, who tell us you can still have a cookie. But
Absolutely.
it has like the knock-on effect by making better choices. So when you have certain things that are just better for your blood sugar, they're
Mm-hmm.
also better for other things because you're cutting out some other crap that's in the foods that was in there before
Mm-hmm.
without having to go super extreme or being, you know, totally changing like 180 degrees, but
Yeah,
just implementing
exactly.
small little changes. Sometimes it's just the one food that you might have to start
Mm-hmm.
somewhere along the way
Yeah, you can
to
start
start
with
the process.
breakfast. Yes, you can just make small changes with your breakfast. And now in the era that we are in, because it's so fast, we all grab the sugary, we do the cereals, we grab something really sweet and go. But most of the symptoms that we are dealing with, if we could go back to our breakfast, right, and eat really good nutrient dense breakfast, it will actually sustain us for the whole day, and it will help us improve our moods. It's not a personality issues for people that are always moody every time. It's not I mean, it could be, but it could be, but sometimes it can be associated with your blood sugar. It's a blood sugar issue. So it's really important. So small changes, you don't have to be. I personally don't believe in restriction, and I'm sure it is for you as well, because I've seen your really good post about things like that. So really good job, Brian. I love the things that you post as well. It's very informative and really good. But I don't believe in restriction because it's not sustainable, right? You can do it for a few days, and of course you will see the result, right? You will see the result, but how long are you going to keep up with that? It's not sustainable. And once you quit doing the diet, and once you quit doing the things that the fast medications that are supposedly making people lose weight and all that stuff, once you quit it, the weight is going to come back. All the symptoms that you're dealing with are going to come back. So it's just really important to focus on small changes and lasting changes that will help you in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think especially now, the time of the year, it's the
Mm-hmm.
7th of January, where we both know a lot of people are now back to some sort of resolutions.
Mm-hmm.
I think 50% have already given up by now. I think it's like something in around that, and then another like what 20% in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because when you try to be too strict, and when
Mm-hmm.
you try to change things around, let's say your diet, let's just say the diet, the foods,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not changing other things that draw you to your old habits. That's
Mm-hmm.
one we might have a bit of time to talk about that as well, like the habits, to understand that our brain, on some level, it's craving it, yes, because it needs that energy, but
Mm-hmm.
on some level also that craving is also a habit. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
feeling, we get, and then the dopamine of course comes in as well. So it's really like so like how to say, multi-dimensional really,
Yes.
when you look at it, but it doesn't have to be that complicated.
No.
Once you work with someone who understands how this works, who understands the factors that come in and the factors that also will kind of like pull you back to the old you,
Mm-hmm.
because that's sometimes still easier to get back to the old me, even though it's medication, even though it's the certain feeling that's not great, but it's a familiar feeling, right?
Yeah.
So it's really
Exactly.
important. I think that's where coaching comes in, right? Where you like bring that side of things in as well.
And I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I need motivation." And to be frank with you, we don't need motivation. What we need is actually discipline. Because motivation comes and goes. Today you're okay, tomorrow you're not. You're like, "Okay, tomorrow I'm going to go to the gym, tomorrow I'm not." It comes and goes. But what will make this habits that you're doing sustainable is discipline. Discipline is what you need to make as your best friend. It has to be your best friend. I always say this. I say make discipline your boo. Right? It has to be the one that you focus on, because if you rely on motivation, it's gonna fail you. Because I'm not motivated to eat better every day. No, sometimes I just want to eat whatever that I want to eat. So you got to discipline yourself. And the way it works is not doing too much, because you're human, you're not perfect. You got to do small changes, and that's what you had mentioned before. It's just small changes. Start with even your breakfast. Let's make some changes with your breakfast first, and then we can go to the other meals, right? And I always say that sometimes a lot of people focus on food and forget that they're stressed, forget about the sleep, forget about I mean, obviously we don't have control over the environment and stuff like that, but we have to always get to the basics. You see a lot of people doing all cold plunges, doing all, it's good, they have their health benefit, but have you gone to the basics? Are you incorporating movement in your life? Are you walking? Even if you don't want to go to the gym, are you walking? Are you changing or adding nutrient dense meals? What are you doing with your stress? Do you have stress management techniques? Have you written down things that actually help you? Because all these cravings, it goes back to the things that we are dealing with. It's not just because you are craving for something. You are dealing with some emotional thing going on that you haven't addressed. That's why you are grabbing that food and eating. It's not because you just craving. Sometimes there's a lot underneath that is going, underlying problems that is going on. But we love to always tend to the new trends, doing cold plunges, all these good stuff. They are good, I'm not saying they are bad, but go back to the basics, the simple things, because you can eat whatever perfect diet, but if you're not um strategizing your day to reduce stress, it's not going to do anything for you. And most of the illnesses that we are having nowadays are associated with stress as well. So it's really, really important. People really underestimate stress and sleep, especially. And mindset is also a big thing. Yeah.
Absolute. And then the stress, of course, also has an effect on the blood sugar. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
again,
your
it's
cortisol
directly
level.
connected. Yeah. So it
Yeah.
is. I'm with you on that 100%. And I'm glad you brought that side up as well, because from me coming from the nutritional side of things,
Mm-hmm.
I recently realized I have to do a lot more coaching on that level as well,
Mm-hmm.
because most people know what they should and shouldn't eat, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The question is, or most people know they should. they should move. Most people know they should not watch telly until midnight, get 8 hours of proper sleep, or 7, whatever one needs.
Uh-huh.
But we're still doing it. And so the question is then, who's the driver? Who's driving? Who's in the driver's seat, and having control over me, over my life? And I think
Exactly.
it's sometimes to get that awareness, to
Mm-hmm.
be, hold on now, I've done this again and again and again. Why is it happening? And I
Yeah.
think that's where a lot of people like miss out. They're not aware that it's all on autopilot. Like we take for granted. We get up in the morning, we do a certain routine, we brush our teeth, we have a shower, go to the toilet, we
Yeah.
press on at the coffee machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but like we don't think about it because we've done it so many times. And
Yeah.
the same with what you mentioned here is the other things of like even like walking through a shop and just like having like a crap day at work. It's like, oh, you
Mm-hmm.
deserve that bar, and
Yeah.
your brain is just telling you like get that bar because you deserve it now, and you get that quick dopamine, and then you feel bad about it again, right? And then like you're in that cycle. So
It's
it's
like a
really about becoming
cycle,
aware
yeah,
of it.
but we are not really sitting down and be like, okay, why am I feeling this way? Why am I grabbing this food? Why am I making these choices? They are all, you got to trace it back to that the very beginning. What is actually going on? What is driving that? And mainly sometimes, a lot of times, it's the stress or whatever thing that we are avoiding. But if we could go back and trace it back to that and fix that, we will really eventually see that there are changes in our symptoms, in the habits that we are even making. So even when it comes to this year, a lot of people writing goals down. It's the habits that is important, because you can write down 20 goals all you want, but if you don't change your habits, you're not gonna see anything. Unfortunately, yeah.
100%, and I love that because it's one of the it's like it's a big thing that I talk about a lot, and I have to remind myself, even I have to remind myself to go back to that too, because if you
Mm-hmm.
don't
Oh
practice it,
yeah.
you fall off. You're like you get off the wagon, and you get pulled back to the old version and the old
Yeah.
habits and tools. So it's really powerful because, like you said, if we just relied on motivation, we wouldn't be getting anything done because motivation might be there for a certain time,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
what you do when it's not there. And I always say to people when they're like, "Oh, I'm not motivated to do this," and
Mm-hmm.
I always ask them, "You have a job, right?" And they're like, "Yeah, I have a job." Are you motivated to go to work every morning? No, I'm not. I was like, "But you're still going, right?" Yeah, I have to because otherwise I don't get paid. And it's that
Exactly.
mindset of like, what if you change that around and also do like, well, if you don't look after yourself now and create that discipline which you
Mhm.
have for going to work because you get up in the morning and you feel like I don't want to go there, but
Yeah.
you still show up. How about
Exactly.
you bring that energy towards your routine, your food, your stress management, when you go to bed, who you
Mm-hmm.
hang out with, because
Yeah.
I think that's a
Oh,
big
that's
thing
a
also.
good one, Brian. That's a good one.
Who you hang out with, because are you meeting the same people over and over where you're triggered into eating certain foods? And
Foods.
I'm not saying ditch all of your friends. No, 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 and your family, no. But you have to be aware of realizing where do you fall off the wagon. It's like you would never send an alcoholic who
Mhm.
hasn't drank in 2 years to the pub. You
Yeah.
wouldn't, because you just have to know your triggers. And if you have like certain triggers for certain foods in certain environments,
Mm-hmm.
look at maybe you have to like remove yourself from those environments a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and and work around that and find other things maybe to do so you're not triggered as much. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to explain yourself as much also when you
Exactly.
make certain joints. So like yeah, it's like lots of different
It's,
lots of
yeah,
different
community, and
areas.
you're right. Community is very important when it comes to creating that positive environment for lifestyle changes. So you have to. It's not only you writing down the goals, like your community matters, right? And even to the extent of sometimes that you can't do it all. So sometimes you have to even seek help, and that's what you and I are there for, to walk with people, to help them build that confidence, to be able to take back control of their health. So sometimes you might not be able to do it alone. You have to seek help. You have to have a good community around you so you can create that positive environment. So all these are really important when you're, writing down the goals for the year and, trying to thrive in this crazy era that we are in. So these are some of the things that are important as well.
I love that. I love that. So it's not just a one-dimensional approach of, hey, do
Mhm,
this and you'll be fine. It's actually helping people along the way
mhm,
with the support that they need.
mhm,
And because some people might be okay, you might have experienced that too, that are okay. They're actually doing a lot of good things around their food,
mhm.
but there's still something missing at times.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes it's like really helpful, like to get someone from the outside to
Mhm,
look at what you're doing,
mhm.
to point out to you, because like I believe you probably have your own coaches, I have my coaches, and they
Yeah.
sometimes tell me, hold on, Brian, now you're lying to yourself here about something. You need to look at this.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, I just sometimes we just can't see it. You can't see the forest because like with all the trees, right?
Mhm.
And so it's really important to allow, I think, other
An
people.
outsider to come in and look at what is actually triggering the symptoms that you are getting. It's when you're in, you don't notice it, but when someone else comes in and looks at everything, they're like, okay, this is what you're doing that is aggravating your symptoms. So you would be able to identify triggers. You'll be able to identify the triggers that are actually aggravating the symptoms that you are dealing with. And one good thing, without your help, really there's nothing. So we can chase all the money in the world, but if you don't have your health, you really can do nothing. You can't go out to even hang out with your friends, right? Because you're stuck in bed. So our health is so, so important. And I hope that it's on everyone's 2024 goals to prioritize the health, because it's quite important. Yeah.
Absolutely prioritize it, and then create the habits,
Yes.
and then also create those or have those systems in place that help
Right.
you to build those habits.
Mhm.
There's a book that I just want to call out. I know I would assume you might have read it,
What is
Atomic Habits by James
atomic?
Clear.
No, I haven't actually. No.
Amazing book on that subject, because it really breaks it down
Mm-hmm.
how our brain works, how we're pulled
What?
back to the old habits. So that could be something really helpful, like maybe like for people
Mm,
as well to look
yeah,
into.
I'll look into.
Um, no, with that being said, I mean, there's so much more we can talk about when it
Oh
comes
yeah,
to
we can be
blood
here all
sugar.
day.
But we might do this again, right? And just
Yes.
follow up on this,
Hmm.
depending on the feedback that we get. But
Hmm.
where can people find you? Where can people connect with you, read more about the stuff that you're talking about, and learn from you?
Yeah, so I'm on all the social media platforms. I'm on Instagram, it's Dr. Nana from D, and you can put it in the chat somewhere, and also on Facebook. But for some reason, Facebook was not letting me log in today, and I don't know what's going on. But I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram as well, and also LinkedIn. So you can definitely, follow me there, and then we just hang out, right? But I do have like a free gift for everyone who might watch and who is interested in balancing their blood sugar. It's just 6 things that you can do now to actually prevent blood sugar spikes. So Brian will share it with his community, and you guys can, once you opt into it, we can be in my email, and then you get information from me as well on a daily basis. Yeah.
I love that. Who doesn't love a freebie, right? Now, what I do is we will definitely add those links in the comment section afterwards, so
Hmm.
people can connect with you from there and can reach out to you directly. Is there
Yeah.
anything else you want to add before we wrap this up in
Um,
regards to blood sugar?
Blood sugar. Well, I'm having a free masterclass on Tuesday. I even forgot about that. So if you're interested, if you're someone who has one of the goals for 2024 as I want to prioritize my health, but then you are confused as to how to get that good sleep, the more energy, the balanced hormones, how to reverse your insulin resistance, things of that nature. One thing you can do is to balance your blood sugar, right? We talked about that. So you can definitely attend. It's for, the stuff that we've talked about, people with pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, high blood pressure. It's like they are all best friends, right? So I usually have a monthly class, and the first one is coming up this Tuesday. I'm super, super excited about it. And the goal is pretty much to teach people or help them know the things that they can do to ditch their type 2 diabetes, boost the energy, to increase less cravings, and also to bring back focus as well. So that's just what we are going to talk about. And there's so many extra stuff that we usually do. I do it on a monthly basis. So we have one this coming Tuesday. So I am super excited for it. So just join me. I would love to have you there so we can, share some more details and more insights into what is actually going on with your body so you can thrive this 2024, because we are not settling for no bad health. No, we're not doing that this year. So I would love to see everyone there as well.
Well, I love the sound of that. I will definitely opt into that as well, because I feel like there's always something else to learn.
Yeah.
And I think you can always learn something from a doctor who has walked the walk, doesn't just talk the talk, but understands and has the background and really like looked into this deeper. No, it was a pleasure to have you on.
Yes,
One here
likewise.
in Europe, and for those of you in a different time zone, I hope you enjoyed this too, and I'm sure we will be doing this again.
Yeah.
I will talk to you very soon, Anna. And
Yeah,
thanks
thank
again
you so much for having me on your platform. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Anna. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.